Stand ready for my arrival, worm.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Invincible just dropped a brand new Episode 8 finale trailer video, so we'll break it all down. There's so many things and so many storylines that they're wrapping up with this episode, in addition to just the Invincible versus Conquest fight, that they're mostly just hyping up their fight, but a big part of that fight involves a big turning point for Mark in the story going forward, in the way he just feels about being a superhero just in general. Conquest got a lot of hard lessons he's going to make him learn during this fight. What it really means to be a Viltrumite, what it really means to have this level of power, and what Mark is going to have to do if he actually wants to protect Earth from the other Viltrumites that will eventually come. People like Thragg, people like Anissa, who will eventually come back. How far are you willing to go? What do you need to do if you're going to actually protect this planet? This Conquest fight winds up going so much harder than any of his fights that he's ever had before, including his fight against Omni-Man way back in Season 1 when they destroyed Chicago. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of stuff going on right now, but we'll learn more about what's happening with Season 4 after they release the finale. Robert Kirkman is usually pretty good about talking about future seasons after they finish the recent season. But the big reminder here is that Conquest is played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who was Negan on The Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman created both Invincible and The Walking Dead TV show. That's why there's so many Walking Dead people on the Invincible show. And Steven Yeun, who plays Invincible, also played Glenn on The Walking Dead, who was brutally killed by Negan. So the whole reason why Robert Kirkman cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Conquest instead of, say, like a bigger character like Thragg or somebody else from the comics, because there's still a lot of other really big characters that they haven't introduced yet. He said personally he just felt like it was too juicy of an idea to give Glenn his rematch with Negan after all these years. If you didn't watch my videos back in the day, I did videos for all those Walking Dead episodes. They're still on my channel. You can still watch those if you want. But it has been a minute since I thought about Glenn versus Negan until they revealed that it was going to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing the Conquest character. Like, that was my instant thought, oh, it's because they want the Glenn versus Negan rematch.
So, back to it.
And as a lot of you pointed out, if you didn't read the Invincible comics, a lot of people are just seeing Conquest for the first time. Yes, he is meant to be a bit of a comp to Thanos from the Marvel comics because his arm looks like he's wearing an Infinity Gauntlet on it. So it's a little bit like Superman having to face Darkseid or the Avengers having to face Thanos in the Marvel movies. And in addition to it just being a knockdown, drag-out, just crazy, absolutely unhinged fight, they also use the fight on a narrative level for a lot of lessons that Mark needs to learn, taught to him through the fight itself and by Conquest literally trying to teach him lessons. There's also a lot of other storylines that they have to wrap up during the episode too, like Rex Splode's funeral, R.I.P. There's also the Omni-Man Viltrumite War storyline because they kind of left that on a cliffhanger. I'm expecting them to pay that off with like another teaser scene heading into Season 4. But the big idea is they just ended the Invincible War. The world is in chaos, just complete ruins, collateral damage everywhere. Like, all these cities have been destroyed all over the planet. Invincible feeling so guilty, so frustrated by what's happened, and because he has had no time to rest, no time to think about it. He's had no outlet for this catharsis, working through his frustrations. But then all of a sudden Conquest shows up, yelling at him, and solves all these problems. Like he says at the end of the episode, all this time, I've just been looking for something to hit as hard as I possibly can. Thank you for coming. So he's actually happy that Conquest is here now because there's somebody that he can finally unload on without worrying about killing him. But that becomes a real problem for Mark during this fight because when he starts the fight, he still has all these preconceived notions about what it means to be a superhero, what kind of hero he wants to be. Like, heroes do not kill. Whereas someone like Conquest is a more unhinged version of Omni-Man. And if you remember, during Season 1, his big fight with Omni-Man was him trying to teach Mark how to fight like a Viltrumite. Think like a Viltrumite. Where's your Viltrumite heart? Trying to teach Mark not to place these moral limitations on himself that prevented him from using 100% of his true power. And whereas Omni-Man was trying to help him like it's his son, so he's trying to teach him, help him in a good way, at least is what Omni-Man views as being a good way to help someone, Conquest has no patience for any of that. He does not care about Mark at all. He just wants to conquer the planet because that's the next mission that was given to him by the Viltrumite army.
The Empire anticipated your resistance, which is why they sent me.
Kregg gave Invincible his father's task. Like, this was your father's mission, now it's your mission. You must take over Earth for the Viltrumites, prepare it to join our empire, or we will send someone else to do it for you. Anissa then came along and told him basically the same thing. Look, if you don't do this, they're going to send somebody else, and he's going to be way, way worse than me. Conquest is that person, so he's showing up here basically telling him at the end of last week's episode 7, I am here to conquer this planet, a task given to you which you so far have failed to do. So for the most part, their fight is meant to be like another level beyond the intensity of his fight with Omni-Man in Season 1, with the same types of lessons that he's forced to learn that he eventually does wind up coming around on by the end of the fight. Like, it's a huge turning point for Mark just in terms of his morality, the way he views how he's going to be using his power going forward, how he's going to deal with the rest of the Viltrumites that he now knows are coming to Earth. We talk about it every season, but like every season, there is an escalation that goes on. But now in the story, just if we're talking about different Invincible comic book arcs, things get way, way more unhinged in the arcs that come after this. So if you felt like Season 2 was kind of a downer, like there wasn't a whole lot of stuff that happened during Season 2, or there were a lot of filler episodes during Season 3, Season 4 and beyond just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. So like a lot of the really, really interesting stuff in the comics that people usually point to when they talk about the Invincible comics start happening now. One of the other really interesting things that's happened too is, you remember Cecil's whole thing is that he has contingency plans upon contingency plans, like plans within plans within plans, always trying to work some angle, looking for ways to stop the Viltrumites, fight them, kill them. So because we've just ended the Invincible War, the GDA is still in recovery mode, like they're at a fraction of their normal readiness level, but you have D.A. Sinclair that's working on the Reaniman in the background. He's been doing it this whole time. It's the whole reason why Mark had the falling out with Cecil in the first place. But the huge change that's just happened is that they killed and defeated most of these alternate versions of Mark. Remember, there were 18 total, and they killed 10 of them. So that means that Cecil got the bodies of 10 alternate versions of Invincible from the multiverse, and he's had D.A. Sinclair trying to use them to create new, more upgraded Reaniman, basically Viltrumite-level Reaniman.
Open up the dark room and ready drop pods 1 through 3.
So just to compare, remember when Cecil turned the Reaniman on Mark after they had their big falling out at the beginning of the season? Imagine how hard it was for him to take care of all those at that time. Now imagine that there are 10 that are now at or close to Mark's power level. All those other versions of Invincible were meant to be very close to his power level, if not at the exact same power level. Some of the other big things going on here too is that you also have Oliver. If you remember Oliver rushing off to battle to join the Invincible War and try and help Mark without really thinking about it, like he has all this power, but he still has the mind of a little kid. So he's like, I gotta help, I got all these abilities, I gotta do something, and just takes off without thinking about it. That's his big weakness, is he doesn't really think about what he's doing when he's rushing into things. Almost wound up getting him into some really serious trouble against the other versions of Mark. Conquest, though, is way more dangerous than these other Marks. So you have Oliver rushing off into battle against Conquest without really thinking about it, and Oliver, even though he doesn't hold back in the way that Mark does, he's not nearly at Mark's power level yet, meaning he's not nearly at Conquest's power level yet either, so he's not really a threat to Conquest. Once he joins the battle, it also starts to become this whole thing where Mark sees that if he doesn't stop Conquest, Conquest is going to kill everybody that he loves. And basically, Conquest proceeds to get more and more pissed off at Mark, trying to goad him into completely unleashing his true power levels, because Mark at this point is still holding back, like he still feels like he can talk it out with Conquest. Talk no jutsu, talk him down. Sun's getting real low, buddy. But because he has way less patience than someone like Omni-Man, Conquest is having none of that. So he just keeps trying to push Mark over the edge during their fight, like, give it to me, show me what you're really capable of, show me that you're a true Viltrumite. And a lot of this winds up paralleling what Cecil was telling Mark before. You can either be the good guy, or you can be the guy who saves the world. So Conquest is starting to force Mark to see that sometimes he does have to kill, or at least that's what Conquest wants him to see. If you don't kill me, I'm going to destroy this entire planet and kill everybody that you love. And because Adam E was such a big part of the last couple of episodes, you remember that she basically got taken out during the Invincible War fight because she placed all these mental limitations on herself. So at least in present day, she's not able to manipulate organic matter the same way that she does with inorganic matter, even though she does have that capability. When she was a child, that limitation was placed on her, but it was a mental block, not like a physical limitation. She can still do it, it's just that subconsciously she doesn't want to do it. She winds up coming back to consciousness and also tries to help Mark and gets involved in the Conquest fight. We don't need to get too deep into that, but she winds up being a key part of how they wind up solving the Conquest problem. And one of the core concepts of the character in the Invincible comics is that if she were able to access 100% of her power levels, she would be one of the most powerful people on the planet in the universe, just in general. But this whole time, she's been operating at a fraction of her power levels just because of the mental limitations that she's placed on herself. So you just get a couple teasers for what she's actually really capable of during this fight. It's just more of like a tease for things to eventually come down the road. But there is just so much interesting character work that goes on during their fight between Mark and Conquest. There's biting, ripping, tearing, like Mark straight up tears chunks out of him with his teeth. That's how crazy it gets. Like Mark absolutely flies off the handle, like totally unleashed Mark. Free the beast, Mark. We have a Hulk version of Mark. But there's a bunch of stuff that they have to wrap up in the finale. If there's anything else that I didn't cover in this video that you have questions about or any other Easter eggs that you want to talk about, just let me know in the comments below. In my full episode 8 video, we'll post after they release it later this week, and then I'll start doing some season 4 videos. Once we get through the finale, we can also start talking about who we want to play the Thragg character, because there's still a couple really big characters that they have not cast yet. Everybody click here for all my Invincible episodes. I'll update the link as soon as I post my finale video, and click here for all my Daredevil Born Again episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.